Welcome to episode 14 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast for sharing tips, apps, and gear for iPhone and iPad, along with related technologies that get us using iOS in a fun, productive, and meaningful way. I'm your host, David Ginsburg, and joining me as always is Melissa Davis. How are you doing, Melissa?
I'm good, Dave. How are you? You sound like you've been watching some horse races.
Well, I've had a little practice doing another podcast, but that's another story. But no, I've really, I don't know. It's just been, I'm getting better and better as I go here when I read
It's great.
stuff.
It's great. It's fun.
And most of that stuff on the other podcast is off the cuff. So, but no, it's if those who you don't know, I guess I'll mention it that I'm doing a podcast.
I was setting you up there, dude.
I wasn't going to plug it, but I guess maybe I will. It's my friend Steve, and he is a very good horse racing handicapper. So he knows the horses very well, and it's our website is offthechartshorseracing.com. I'll leave it at that. You can check it out if you so desire. And he does his picks. He gets all the credit. I just do the hosting and make things fun. So
it's just another way that you're in touch with iOS. So there we go.
There you go. Yeah. Well, but we're in touch with other stuff, but that's another story.
All right. Well, let's talk about, You've had some experiences recently. Why don't you tell everybody about your watch repair? You've had both. You had a double whammy, your watch and your iPhone.
I did. So I have an Apple Watch Series 2, which I did talk about in previous episodes. I chose not to upgrade, because I start looking at my bank account and saying, I'm really spending way too much money on stuff lately. I need to just kind of step back a little and say, you know what? The Series 2 watch is perfectly fine. I don't really need to upgrade, especially when I was turned off about the LTE updates, which I just read today that they just
what they call that, right? There's a condition that you have. It's called reality distortion filter.
Exactly.
Or reality distortion field, I should say.
So that was
learned how to filter that.
So in the previous episodes, I said I was going to go with the iPhone 10. And then I had some second thoughts, and I did write up about that, and said, you know what? I think the iPhone 8 Plus is good for me. So, but anyway, we'll talk about that later. So yes, I had the Series 2 watch, and it was just before, I believe, iOS 11 it came out, and all of a sudden I pull my wrist up and I look, and the glass is completely separated, all four corners.
Oh my!
And I'm like,
what do you think caused it?
Is this crazy? And then I didn't realize it until after I rubbed my right arm, because I wear my watch on my left wrist. I did a little minor cut on my arm too, so I said, holy cow! And we're going to post the picture of the watch in the show notes, what it looked like. What happened? Ultimately, what ended up happening when I found out was the battery started bulging. It started getting swelling, I guess is what it was. And then what happened was that because it swelled, it swelled. It pushed up on the glass, and then of course the glass separated from the entire frame.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pictures that you shared that we're going to put in the show notes, and I have an old iPhone 3GS, and it looks just like this. Like this is like a little miniature version of that, where the glass started to pop off because it swelled. Mm-hmm.
Well, what's a couple things that are frustrating with the watch, and I'll be happy. I'm going to voice my opinion on it because I was real frustrated. Is I wanted to go to the store to just get an exchange. I mean, my gosh, it's uncovered. I have Apple Care on it, so I go to the store, and they don't exchange watches at any store ever. They have to ship it in, and then they ship it back out to you. And then, granted, they were quick about it. I got it back within 2 days, which was the longest. But I was
but that's a long time to I can imagine what that must feel like now, because when you have your watch on and you start to depend on it. That's hard. But
the other frustration was when I brought it, the guy right away was going to charge me for it. I'm like, what are you, crazy? This did not happen by me abusing it. I said, there's no question. Well, let me go take a look and talk to the manager. And so then, because I didn't know the battery had swelled until he said something. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, that makes more sense to me. So send it off. Mm-hmm. I'm not paying a dime. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I give you enough of my money. So
exactly.
And within a couple of days, I got it back, and I was happy as a clam. So it was a brand new watch, so it was great. So
and this was a Series 2.
Series 2, yeah. And I honestly am perfectly fine with the Series 2 at this point. I can sit tight for another year and see what happens with the LTE model, and maybe Series 4 comes out next year.
Yeah, let's see how that does on the wild first for a while.
Exactly, and that was the exact same thing I did when I decided to go with the 8 Plus. I'm on Apple's trade-in program, so I financed it through Apple, which I highly recommend to everybody. I think dealing with the carriers is always frustrating, and trying to buy a phone there and just dealing with them. I mean, I'm an AT&T customer. I'm fine with them, but honestly, all the carriers are not the greatest. I'll be honest. And
I think it helps if you have a friend.
well, if you have a friend at the carrier, that always helps. But
yeah.
I mean, I've got
one
plans.
Of the guys that works there is like one of my kids' school dads. So I'm just like, hey, dude, help me out.
There you go. So I decided to stick with I went and traded up to the 8 Plus, and it's an absolutely awesome phone. I really love it. I think they've made some pretty good improvements. I just, like I said, iPhone 10 is going to be a first gen product. I know there's going to be problems. And you know what? The worst part is it's going to be near impossible to get one. I mean, they're already saying that the stock is going to be so low. And I can just imagine people are going to be waiting for 2, 3, 4 months to get this phone. And then when they get it, we have this problem, we have that problem. So,
you might as well just go with what's out with the latest now.
Yeah. And they can let someone else beta test it and be done with it. So within the first week, I went in and got the phone the first day it came out, of course.
Did you stand in the line?
There was no line.
No lines.
No
lines
at
for
all.
you.
I didn't even reserve the phone. I was.
Oh, nice.
I took a chance. I said, I'm going to go to the store. I'm just going to walk up and see what I can do. Because normally I would have it all reserved. Because I had the watch reserved, then I canceled it. I changed my mind right on that same day. So I decided, I'm going to go there this afternoon, that afternoon and see what I can do. So sure enough, as soon as I walked up to the store, there's a line out there because they were trying to keep control of people going into the store. And it says, yeah, let me get you on the list. And within 5 minutes, I was in the store, and they said, yeah, I went with the 256. Again, I know I just decided to do it. I was tempted to go 64, but I said, you know what? I'll regret it later. I already have a 256, and I never have to worry about space. So what the heck?
Yeah, if you don't want to think about it, you just don't want to think about it.
What the heck? I mean, and I'm already paying the same amount for the monthly fee anyway. So very simple process. You just give them your old phone. They pay off the loan on the old phone and start you new, and it's basically like starting over again. So I could say it's probably depends on really what you want to spend. But it doesn't bother me because now we can just trade. After a year, I can trade the phone in and start over again. So it was a decent. It was a really good experience. And other than the gal she was having a little bit of challenge with getting the financing going, because I guess it was her first time doing it using the Citizens One Bank as the bank that they use for Apple. So, but I'll tell you a little side story before we move on with that is. There was another gal that was in there that actually I knew from being in there the year before, and I think I bought my iPhone 7 Plus from her. And I saw her and I knew her, and I've connected with her on LinkedIn, and I also told her about my Apple user group, and she wanted to come see us and all that kind of stuff. So I knew who she was, but I didn't want to bother. She was with somebody else helping a customer, and I'm just standing there, and then she just came up to me and said, I know who you are because I heard your voice. I can hear your voice. I know you from In Touch from iOS. I'm like, oh my God.
No way.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. So
that's awesome.
I thought that was like, what a great feeling. And I knew
that's terrific. I love it.
Her name was Tracy. She's a real nice lady. And
hi, Tracy.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. And she goes to the other guy that's working with her. He knows his stuff. He knows more than we do. She says to her, and I'm like, oh my God, make me blush here. So that was it was a nice feeling, and she's
that would have been a great
nice
portrait lighting picture, Dave.
Yeah, should have did a selfie with her. So that was kind of a side story. So that was a nice. That's experience.
A great side story. I love that. Can you just talk a little bit about the oleophobic?
Yeah. So let me move on. Get time. I'm going on here. Let me go on to the week later, and I discovered that the oleophobic, I think it is the film that's inside the glass that helps prevent it from getting a lot of fingerprints when you touch it. We'll have a picture of my phone on the show notes, and you actually can get, if you kind of be amusing, if you see what the picture I provided, it has the picture of when I was talking to Apple support over the chat they have, because they have that great chat.
I saw that.
And he's saying, did you reboot the phone? Did you? He's like asking me to use software stuff. I'm like, dude.
I grit my teeth every time I have to contact support because it's like, I've already been
problem.
through the triage. Here we go.
Yeah, this is a physical problem. So I just hung up, and I ended up calling somebody. I mean, was able to make an appointment at the store. So basically, I had to take the phone into the store. Yeah, I mean, it was purely a defect, and I guess if anybody's familiar with Chris Perillo, he had the same problem, and he did a blog post on it that same week. Same thing happened. There was something with the display, so brought it into
quality control slip there.
Yeah, brought it into another Apple store, our store in Deer Park, Illinois, which I go to sometimes as well, because the Woodfield store that we'll talk about in a minute, which I go to most of the time, did not have any appointments. So I went there, and they looked at it a little bit, and then they was like, yeah, it looks like we have to replace it. I said, which model do you have? 256. Then he says, oh, wait, I don't know if we have any in stock. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I can't imagine they keep a whole lot of those in stock. That's not the most popular flavor.
So I said, wait a minute, let me go back. So he went into the safe, he told me later, and says, all of a sudden he's got one they found, because I don't know if it was being held for somebody or what the deal was. I didn't care. You got me a phone.
It just sounds like happy. A Far Side cartoon waiting to happen.
But they pulled out a brand new phone. It wasn't like a repaired, like one of the phones they bring out when you use AppleCare. So got it replaced, and the phone's been perfect ever since. So that was unusual to have two experiences with both my devices within a few weeks of each other. So,
and it's not even like Mercury retrograde or anything, is it? Usually that sort of thing happens around those times.
So, and then we wanted to talk a little bit about all the stores are changing, the Apple stores, and I had a good experience because the Apple Store Woodfield, which is in Schaumburg, Illinois, right outside Chicago, that was one of the original Apple stores, their original designs when the Apple stores first opened. I guess 10 or 12 years ago, however when the Apple.
Which is the one that I've been to.
Yeah,
it was that one with the big window.
No. You might have been downtown Chicago, which is
I think it's downtown.
Yeah, that one's changing again. That'll be changing next. Actually, in what is it?
You got a lot of
October
Apple
20th
town squares in Chicago.
Yeah. So this one, I don't know if it's necessarily a town square, but it was so overdue. The floors in this store were all the old wood, and the manager was telling me that they were just having nothing, but they can't get these things sanded down any more than they've already have. It's just they're so old. I mean, they had to be replaced. So sure enough, I walked into the store, and we had already gotten an email saying that the store was reopening on September 30th. So I went over there on that weekend, this past weekend, and the big sign on the old store was, "We just moved down the hall." I'm like, okay, that's a little confusing because I'm trying to look over. I'm like, all right, where did they go? But it literally was just down the hall.
You are here.
Yeah, you just
no, you're not here.
Just kept walking down the other end of the mall, and I start to look over to the right. Oh, there it is. I see the Apple logo. So I walk up to it. Beautiful, beautiful store, and it's pretty much the same concept as all the rest of the stores I've seen. Really bright lighting, and the cool white floors and the cool white ceiling. Which I found out later that the ceiling is actually made of cloth, and it I guess helps absorb a lot of the sound, because when you're in those stores, they're always very loud.
Oh, so loud.
So, but they got the same concept. A lot of other new stores with the big long tables and where people were setting things up and doing. And there's no more Genius bar anymore, where there used to be, where there was a big desk in the back, and they pretty much help you work on your devices all around the store. There was only 2 tables for Mac, which I was found to be very interesting. But the rest.
So there's not a bar. Is that going to be for all the town squares, or is that just for that one where there's no bar?
Because I was in another local store in Chicago when I got my watch exchanged or sent it for replacement in Northbrook, Illinois, which is on the North Shore of Chicago, and that store was pretty much the same concept. I mean, it's just wide open. It's not like a town square.
No bar.
No bar anymore. Yeah, they got rid of all the bars. The one that's in downtown Chicago, it's going to be opening on October 20th of 2017, is supposed to be, that'll be a town square. It'll be huge, and they'll have auditorium, and they'll have the plants like they were talking about, making it feel like you're hanging out in a park, and so it'll be a lot more like that. But the other cool thing I saw in the Woodfield Schaumburg, Illinois store was the HomeKit demonstrations they have. They had 2 big screens, and we'll have pictures in the show notes that I took. 2 big screens, one on each side, and they had iPads with all the HomeKit buttons that you could push, and it simulates you turning off the ceiling fan or bringing down and up the drapes, and the lighting changing, and it was like basically virtual reality, looking in a bedroom. and being able to control all this stuff. It shows it on that screen, but you'd have to really see it in person to really give a good experience about it. So, it was a pretty cool experience, and it's a nice store. I'm happy that they finally did it, because it was
you managed to walk out of there without any new light bulbs.
I did not purchase a thing. I went into that store. I was, should I buy this new band? Because I'm liking those new sport bands they got, the ones that wrap around.
Yeah,
I resisted. So, but those are my experiences with the stores, and then of course my repairs that I had to deal with. So,
well, I got to tell you, I've been thinking a lot since the last time we talked, and now hearing more about your iPhone 8 Plus experiences, and I'm really starting to lean more towards the 8 Plus. So I want to put a call out to our listeners, all 5 of you. I want to ask for suggestions. Send us your comments, your tips. You can go to our blog and you can click on the comments there, or you can tweet at us. You can go to our Facebook page. All of that stuff will be in our show notes. I want your suggestions on iPhone 8 Plus cases. Now, here's my request, my caveat, okay? Because I've been struggling with the whole idea of just carrying such a larger phone. And as I've told you before, I'm pretty proud of my little wallet thing that I have going on. And so I'm not so much as concerned about being able to charge wirelessly. I'm going to ask you about that in a second, about the wireless charging experience. You have a picture and a little video that we're going to put in the show notes for that too. So I'm not too concerned about that, because I just live plugged in a lot of the time anyway. It's just, I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's just hot out here. It's just really hot, and batteries get murdered. I think I'll like having that plus sized battery, and that will be It'll make me happier, but I still want to manage my expectations as far as heat affecting battery life. But I really am going to miss having a wallet if I don't get some kind of a wallet case. So I've been looking on Amazon, and I just, I can't really decide. So I'd like some feedback from some people. If they have any ideas, maybe they have pictures or something that they're using that they really like. I want something that is still going to allow me to use it as a wallet, because I really don't like having to carry a purse if I don't have to carry one, or a bag. I'm kind of all or nothing. It's either it's my big bag when I go out, on a house call, or it's my phone with my little pocket, and that's it. So I want something that has a strap, something I thought, maybe this will take care of that whole issue of not being able to shove it in my pocket like I'm used to. So I've been trying, this is silly, I know this is a first world issue here, but I've been trying to train myself to stop sticking my phone in my pocket and carry it. And, I have a puppy, I have kids, I'm always juggling something with my hands. And I thought, this is just not attainable. I can't it's hard to just hold the phone in my hand. So then I started looking at cases, and I thought, well, maybe a strap would negate that problem. Maybe if I had something that had a strap of some sort, and I'm starting to see those more and more. Maybe you can ask Kathy about it. Maybe she has some ideas for that. I don't know what she's carrying around. But some type of wallet, something with a strap. Again, I'd rather, you're going to have some trade-offs. So I'd rather trade off the whole wireless charging thing if it means having to put a thick case on there. But then my biggest challenge is, I'm really concerned, because this is the whole reason that I want to go with the 8 Plus, aside from the bigger screen and being able to just work on a bigger screen, is the camera. Oh, I've often said, awesome. This is not a phone. It's a camera that happens to make phone calls. Yeah. It's a pocket computer is what it is. It's not really a phone. And so it's the camera that I'm really after. Now, I've seen these things called bandolays where, but I'm not paying $80 for like a leather studded case. It's just not me. So I'm looking for something that will allow me to take pictures really well. And I'm concerned about the flash, because the bulkier the case, from what I've experienced in the past, if it has a lot of bulk around the lens, then you usually get some kind of flash flare. So I'm really concerned about that. Yep. So those are my caveats. I'd like it to be something that's easily transportable, something with a strap, so that I don't have to worry about shoving it in my pocket, something that I can just kind of throw on my wrist, and then I can still juggle, I can still pick up the puppy and still, deal with the kids. And like today, I had to go, I was carrying dry ice around today for my kid. It's like, I can't be carrying a phone and all this stuff. So it has to have some kind of a strap. And then the camera is a big thing. Like, it has to be able to take flash pictures without any kind of occlusion or anything. Right. So that's my plea to our listeners. Well, and then I want to ask you about wireless, unless you have any other comments.
I was going to just give you, the wife has the standard Apple case cover, the back cover. So she doesn't have a case. I know my sister-in-law does have, she has one of those folding cases like that covers over it, kind of like a folio. But I've tried all kinds of different cases over the years, and I was using Movi forever, and I'm done with Movi. I actually like the Apple, the silicone case that they provide, the backing. In fact, the one I had for the 7 Plus fits perfectly, which I was shocked. I mean, there's really,
how do you carry around like your driver's license, your credit card, all that kind of stuff?
Being a guy, I have a wallet.
Yeah,
so.
you see your wallet. Yeah, I'm a girl. So sorry, Dave.
No, I mean, there are some. I mean, I know some folks that I support in my office that have what you're talking about. That they like to have the case that's got the little slide thing on the back of it where you can put your driver's license or credit card or whatever.
All right, well, send me some pictures and some links and stuff, and we can share them in our next episode if we find something that really fits my fancy.
But yes, wireless charging for the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. Awesome. I really like the fact that you have the choice to be able to just have a wireless base. And any of the Qi technology, that's QI if you don't know what Qi is wireless technology that the Apple has gone with, which that's the standard for pretty much any phone. So the great thing about it is you can go out, you don't necessarily have to buy the Mophie pad that they're selling at the Apple Store or the Belkin one. You can go on Amazon and you can find a stand that actually stands up the phone, and it will charge it. And it's like anywhere between $15 and $20 for that device. And all you have to do is have a cord, plug it into a standard outlet, or if you have a USB port that you're powering with it now, and it'll charge. Now I
want to find one that'll do my watch and my phone at the same time.
And that's the thing. The problem is wireless technology is not going to be supported in Series 2. So you have to have a Series 3 watch in order to do wireless charging.
Well, even if it was just, making something, hey, you know what? This would be a really good project for kids learning about 3D printing. Someone designed me a charging stand that accommodates both my watch, has like a little recessed area to put the magnet in there with a Qi charging base. That would just be lovely. Purple, please.
I agree. I know I watched another podcast. I think it was on Twit. There was Megan Maroney. She showed her case that she had one of those magnets that would attach to her base, and if you had the magnet in the wrong spot to where the charging coils are in the 8 Plus, it won't charge. So you got to be careful.
So magnets and Qi are not.
Yeah, you got to have them. It has to be in a different spot. It has to be below and the bottom.
Got to keep them separated. Okay.
It has to be towards the bottom of the case, towards the lightning jack, and not the middle where a lot of people do it for the case. So you can't have a magnet in there, otherwise it's not going to charge. But
otherwise, that's a design challenge.
Otherwise, the charger's great, and you can find some of those chargers that are fast charging because the 8 Plus will allow you to be able to fast charge with wireless. So that's going to be a really cool thing too. But there's tons and tons of them out there. That's what we love about Amazon, and I'm addicted to buying anything on Amazon. So they have tons of those types of chargers out there, and my favorite brand is Anker, Anker.
I always hear good things about them.
Always great stuff. I've bought many. I have one of their 20,600 milliamp charging battery I carry with me all the time, so I can charge on the fly. So their products are good, but most of the ones, the one I bought that you'll see in the video I did, that's an off-brand. Just was not a big name, but most of them are fine. They actually work perfectly fine, and they were designed to work with anything that has the Qi technology.
In most cases, you said will work pretty well.
Yeah,
it's just,
there's no case. I haven't.
I imagine the thicker you get, like something that I want is probably not going to work. And I worry about my credit cards getting demagnetized. I guess it's not. Yeah. Qi doesn't do that to it, does it?
But it shouldn't. But you got.
But it's something to consider.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You don't want it to happen. So, but the wireless charging is the other big advantage of it. The other thing with this 8 Plus is going to be the True Tone. They put the True Tone display, which is it's a beautiful display. In fact, I was showing it to the wife this evening while we were at dinner, and she.
Did you take a pretty portrait picture?
No, nothing yet. No.
Okay.
But the screen is beautiful, and it also has that auto brightness sensor that's in here now. So it gets bright depending on the lighting, so it adjusts accordingly. And the battery hasn't been too bad on the 8 Plus, and I know we're going to talk about battery life in here in a minute. But it does have a really good True Tone display, just similar to what the iPad has. So.
In Arizona, I'll be the judge of that.
There you go.
When I get one, I'll report back and let you know just how good it is and how it holds up to the Arizona sun.
Oh, you mean the display or the battery?
Just both.
Okay.
Both. Because it's so bright out here a lot of times. You're like, you have to kind of hide somewhere to go look at your watch or your phone.
Well, that's the thing. I've had it in bright sunlight, and it gets really bright so you can see it. And
Good.
It really, not real bright, but enough that it adjusts so you can see it very well.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen my 6S do that on occasion, but yeah, then I have to make sure I put it back down if it doesn't adjust itself already. So that'll be something to look forward to. So yeah, let's just get this out of the way. Battery life stinks on iOS 11, but I knew that was going to happen, so I can't complain about it too much.
Models. I mean, I had my 7 Plus for on it for a couple of weeks, and I wasn't having that many problems with it. So the Plus models were okay. I'm not sure about the 6S Plus. Or
that's just it. I have a 6S, so I've got but that's just the thing that bugs me is like I have an aging phone, but it's got a replaced battery. So I did expect just a little bit more performance out of this brand new battery. So, I think it'll stabilize over the next couple of days. I'm not going to get too upset about it, but it's something that I just have to compensate for.
Well, we'll have a link in the show notes from the Mac Observer, our favorite guys that talking about the battery life in iOS 11. There's tons more articles out there. I mean, just go crazy talking about this, and they like to rip on it.
Well, they have a more. That's why I linked to this one in the show notes because it's the most recent one. It's got the more updated screenshots and that sort of thing. I mean, it's a same song, different verse. Disable this, disable that. Basically, handicap your iPhone so that you can use it. Get over the first couple of days of stabilization. And then, we'll adjust life accordingly when it comes to that. So I don't want to harp on that too long. No. I would like to talk about our upgrade experiences. Now, you've been beta testing, so you had a little bit of an advantage. You had some time to get used to this, whereas I kind of took the longer route.
I was on I have developer account and public beta. I do both. So, I could publicly talk about it. So,
you have the SE that you can kind of test on. I just have my main squeeze, but I couldn't really put it on there.
But I was confident once they had released the Golden Master, and that's usually how my upgrade paths go on my primary devices. Once they released the Golden Master on the iPhone, I'm very confident that that's the final version, and it was. So I was running it for a full 2 weeks or a week before it actually came out. And battery life was great. There wasn't any problems on the 7 Plus at all for me. And so the upgrade path went fine. Yes, there was some bugs. There was no question there are some bugs with iOS 11.
Having an older phone, that's why I like to wait a little bit longer.
Right. And it was probably a good idea because both devices I have are relative. I have the newer chips, so at the time. So now, of course, now I have the 8 Plus, which the A11 Bionic is.
It's probably just wonderful on that.
Oh yeah, the performance on that thing is just incredible.
And I have, we have older devices, plus nothing goes to waste in this house. So my husband's 5S, I'm waiting still to upgrade that because I'm kind of not looking forward to that. I want to wait till closer to the time before I finally pull the trigger and go get the 8 Plus, and have that in my hand and give him the 6S. And then maybe I'll put it on the 5S if that goes to my son, and then we'll see how it goes. So, because he doesn't necessarily, he's a little kid, so it is not like, of course he would love to have the speed, but let's temper our expectations here. So I'll wait to put it on that. And already they've
released iOS, they released 11.0.1, and then just
last night I did 11.0.2.
One of the big problems with 11.02 was crackling audio for the phone, and I did not experience that. So I found that
I hadn't experienced it, but then again, I only had it on for a day or two, so I don't really talk about it.
It only related to that issue was just the 8 and the 8 Plus.
Okay.
So 11.1 is already in beta now. I'm running that on my SE, so not a lot of subtle changes with that as of yet, but. That I would anticipate that's going to be on the fast track for release pretty soon here. I'm sure they'll have a couple more betas of it because I think it's beta 1 or beta 2 on 11.1. And so it'll improve some of the stability because I have seen some quirky things like apps not closing properly, screen's not moving around.
That's what I'm experiencing.
Sticking,
to be honest with you, I'm having a lot of lag when I go to swipe between home screens.
Yep.
And even I will talk about this a little bit later, but I did some screen recordings. Finally, I couldn't wait to get my hands on doing that.
Yep.
And I actually had to trim my video a little bit because you could see in the video a little bit of lag of I had to tap again to get the app open. So I'm still experiencing that kind of stuff. So again, I mean, I'm used to this sort of thing, but I think, other people will be really, really frustrated with it. So your mileage may vary and, be careful when you're working with older devices.
Just as you know, whenever you go with a new OS, there's always bound to be problems. But once people go on iOS 11, I hear nothing but rave reviews about it. And there's a lot of great things that were added to it. So,
it's definitely worth the upgrade just for the new features. Just manage your expectations. Just know that it might be a little buggy. Yeah. And especially if you have an older device, just be prepared that there might be a little bit of lag here and there. But again, I think that those things, it's a trade-off. And I would rather have the new features. So I've been really happy about that.
Now, go ahead.
I want to talk a little bit about the actual upgrade experience. Yep. So, you've already been doing the upgrade. Mm-hmm. I waited and I wanted to try it. It was something new for me that I wanted to try. I used iMazing to upgrade my iPhone. I just wanted to see what the experience was like. And I did it for both the upgrade, which is when we went from iOS 10 to iOS 11. Yep. And then I did it again for the update just to see if there was any kind of differences. And there wasn't. I will tell you, it's a good experience if you don't mind being able to sacrifice your phone for an hour and a half, tops, maybe, it's just one of those things where you kind of have to set it aside, go check on it. I encrypted it. So it asked me for a password. I laid down to go relax for a little while. And then I thought, I'll go check on it. So you have to babysit it a little bit. And so I went and checked on, I need to enter my password, and that, made it take longer, but it was a smooth process. It's just that iMazing does a process where it restores it. And I wanted to ask you about that. Do you know why does it do that? Is it just a security feature? Is it just they want to make sure you have something clean, or?
It's similar to what iTunes does when you do an iTunes backup and you want to do an iTunes restore. Yeah, you can go out to Apple servers and just download the update, and it'll just do a straight update. But it also has the option to do a full restore. For some reason, I don't know. We'll have to ask the iMazing guys, or at least research that to see why that it does it. But for some reason, it wants to do a full upgrade or a full restore compared to what
it does a backup, which I liked.
Well, of course.
I wanted to do a backup.
It does a backup, yeah, absolutely.
Because I've gotten bricked before. I've gotten the little symbol that says, "Oh no, you have to plug into iTunes." So once you experience that once, it's once bitten, twice shy. So I always do a backup. I always do a backup, and so I like the fact that it takes care of that. And then I did a Time Machine backup just to be sure. Yeah. I just want to cover all my bases.
Sure.
But normally I do go straight through iCloud over the air is what they call it. And I do that because I want to be able to experience what my clients are experiencing. And I've done that enough times to know kind of what the process is. And it usually takes anywhere from a half an hour to 45 minutes. But because I went through iMazing and I did it very thoroughly, it did a backup, and then it did a full restore, and then it upgraded. And like I said, first it was the upgrade, and then it did the update, but it went through the same process. So both times, it wasn't like one time was any shorter than the other. They both took about an hour to complete the process. And again, it's a 6S, so if it was a newer phone, it probably would have gone a lot faster.
Now,
so that was the upgrade experience. And then I want to talk a little bit about the change. You've been on this for quite a while, so I'm a little bit newer to it, and I have shiny right now going on. So that's always fun. The Watch OS 4, that was smooth. I didn't have any issues with that.
Me either.
As far as the watch goes, I immediately was impressed with when I first put it on in the morning. I did it overnight because my alarms are on my phone. I do have some alarms on my watch, but I have most of my alarms on my phone. That's always been my priority ever since, I don't know what version of iOS it was where people their alarms weren't going off. I'm like, I cannot afford to not have my alarms. So I always stay up and make sure that it finishes and make sure that my alarms are going to be okay. But my watch, I just let that do it on its own, overnight. And I woke up and I put it on my wrist, and immediately I noticed the unlock code. If you have your watch set to do that, I recommend that you do that. Not everybody does, but I have mine set with a 4-digit PIN. And that was a wonderful experience. It was much brighter. I noticed that because my eyes were kind of tired, when I got up and I put it on. I'm like, ooh, That's nice. It's just nice, bigger, more bold display of numbers. And it gives you like a little bit better of a feedback. And when you tap it, you can really hear it click, So I really, really enjoyed that. But one downer, I should have started with the bad news first. Sorry. But the one downer, and I did ask Apple about this. I haven't gotten a response back on Twitter, but I really don't like that when you swipe up from the bottom. One of the features that I use a lot is putting my watch in silent mode. Like I have it in do not disturb right now, but a lot of times I want to get the haptic feedback, but I don't want to hear the sound. I have lots of alarms, and like one of them just went off because it was an alarm, but I get lots of notifications and I have lots of dings and reminders and stuff like that. I'm just always beeping and booping everywhere I go because it's a compensation thing that I do with my life. And I like being able to just flick up from the bottom and tap on the bell. Well, you can't do that now. Now you have to flick up from the bottom and then you have to flick up again. Oops, I just set that off and I didn't mean to do that.
That is you. Okay.
That's another feature. Yeah. That still works very well. You can tap and hold. I used that tip the other day. I went and pinged my phone because I was looking for it, but it was in a bag where I couldn't see it. And I tapped and I held. Remember when our buddy Steve told us how to do that? And that was wonderful. Mm-hmm. But now, so you can do that by accident. So now when you go to get to the little bell to make it red, to put it in silent mode, you have to swipe up again. So it's a swipe and another swipe. I know, first world problem. But let me tell you, I'm always like on the go. I'm always doing stuff. When you're walking and you're carrying a dog and you're like doing all these things and you're trying to do this and multitask, it's a little difficult. It's not very graceful. So I would like to see a feature in the future sometime where we can actually, just like in Control Center on the phone, unless maybe you can tell me, Dave, is there a way that you can move those icons around?
Not on the watch, no.
There should be, though, right?
No.
There should be a way that you can move those around so you can put, because come on. I don't go to movies that often. Why?
Right.
Why does theater mode why does it get precedence over silent mode?
Yeah.
Tell me that. Like, I don't want to put it in theater mode. I don't want it to be dark. Right. I don't go to movies that much. I'm in more meetings and during activities where I need it to be silenced than I am going to a movie. So if anything, they should be swapped.
Yep.
That's my opinion. So, okay, off my soapbox about that. And then the other thing that I miss, I'll lead in with the negative stuff first. The thing that I miss on my 6S with iOS 11 is I miss the 3D Touch app switcher. Mm-hmm. But we have a link to an article. Craig says it's coming back. So enough people have probably complained about it. There was some kind of snafu. For some reason, he said they had to disable it temporarily. So I like those words, temporarily. It's not gone for good, and I'll be rejoicing when that comes back because as a mom, I use my phone on the down low. I try to do things really stealthily and really quietly. And let me tell you, having to click that home button to, use the multitask, it's a little loud when someone's sleeping. So, yeah, I want the stealth back. Give me the stealth back, Craig. And that's all I'll say about that. Of course, I'm loving being able to make little screen recordings. I love the Control Center. I've been digging around in there. So lots of great new features in there. Let's move on to some tips, shall we?
Before we move on, I threw one thing into our show notes. I'm going to throw you off here, but I forgot all about it until just a few minutes ago. Remembering, we'll have the link in the show notes. There is a new feature in iOS 11 for when you go to get your new phone, it's going to blow you away. Basically, what happened was I had my iPhone 7 Plus already on iOS 11, of course. Brought it into the store. They now have a new feature called Automatic Setup, where what'll happen is it'll automatically get your iPhone 8 up and running super quickly. So basically what it does is it brings over right out of the box. It'll automatically streamline the setup of process for transferring over preferences, Apple ID, Wi-Fi info, preference settings. That doesn't come over when you do the when you do the iCloud restore. It automatically brings it over. How do they do that? It's because both devices are on the same Wi-Fi. It sees that your new phone and your old phone are there. It's kind of like the way the earbuds or the AirPods pop up when it says it's connected. There's a screen. The link I shared is from Mac Rumors. It actually shows, they have a video that will show you exactly what it does. And it just goes through it. Basically, what you have to do is you power up your device, you choose your language and all that other stuff, and then it says place your existing iOS device near the new device to initiate the automatic setup, and then it'll sense it. It does it. I couldn't believe it.
That's cool. I was going to ask you because, you just got that brand new phone and then you went in, you got another one. I was like, oh my God, he has to go through that all again.
and the same thing with the Apple Watch, because it'll do it automatically. It does the pairing just by, because obviously you have to repair your watch when you get your new device. But it brought everything in automatically. I was like, holy cow, I forgot all about that. But then, of course, when I had to swap the phone the second time with my screen problem, I completely forgot, and I erased the old phone before I could do it. So
that sounds so awesome, because I just got done deploying 54 iPads for school using the MDM. So that sounds magical and wonderful to me.
Oh, it is. It is. And the thing is, it just works. And now I can tell you I experienced it both ways. When I forgot, when I erased it and forgot it, and I had to go through the whole iCloud process, almost painfully slower. But this this streamlined the process big time. So just want to make sure
I'm looking forward to that when I get my new phone. I'll report back on that experience.
We have that in the show notes. We'll have that link. So
nice.
Thank you. I completely forgot about that, and I'm glad I was able to remember that.
Just had to pluck that out of your brain. That's okay. Okay. All right, let's get back to some tips. So I just want to talk about, I was, poking around in the contacts. Contacts is kind of my baby. It's like the thing that every time there's a new update or a new upgrade, I drill right into contacts. Like, did they give contacts some love? And the answer is mostly no. But I did discover one thing that made me think that we should talk a little bit about emergency tools, because my husband brought something up. Mm-hmm. So my husband is a blood donor, and he donates fairly regularly. Actually, I should correct that. He's not actually he doesn't donate blood. He donates platelets. So, which is actually can in some ways be seen as more important. So he donates platelets, and he likes to fill out. I'm so proud of him. Like, I didn't know he was doing all this stuff. Mm-hmm. He's actually a lot geekier than I thought. He was like really drilling down into the health app, and he was entering this data and stuff. And do you know, is there a way to somehow get your hemoglobin? That's what he asked me. So I wanted to ask you about that. He wanted to be able to input his hemoglobin somewhere. Maybe the future isn't here yet.
Well, I mean, it shows add blood type.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have that because I'm one of those weird blood types that I have to have special blood. So I definitely have that on mine. But the thing I wanted to talk about, going back to the contacts, is, and I don't know I think this is new. So when you go into contacts and you go to your contact, mm-hmm. they've now made it really easy. And I think this was still easy in the last version, but it's even easier because now there's a nice big bold headline. My seniors are going to love this. Your card is at the very, very top, and all you have to do is tap on your name and your little pretty picture there. Right. Now, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, mm-hmm. I have a lot of stuff, so it takes me longer. Show medical ID is at the very bottom. Now, if you want to edit that or set that up, so Dave, you had a demo. You're going to go through this with me live. So one of the things that I want to ask you about is, what does it tell you about signing up to be an organ donor? But I just thought this was interesting because I hadn't seen this. And again, it's at the bottom of the page, so it's not like it's really noticeable. But it's an easier way to kind of get to it than having to drill through the health app and all that kind of stuff. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I really want everybody to go check out their medical ID. This is really, really important. When your iPhone is locked, and I harp on this a lot because, like, I have little kids and I want them to be safe. So, this is me being the Mac mommy here. When your iPhone is locked, I want all little kids to be able to know how to dial 911 or to be able to find out medical, emergency, or just not even medical, but just emergency contact information from a locked iPhone. Because nowadays, hopefully we're all locking our iPhones. And the way that you do that from a locked iPhone is you wake it up, whether it's the side button or whatever, and you press the home button again, and then you'll get, it'll ask you for the Touch ID or passcode. Now, obviously, it's not your fingerprint, so it's not going to work. And the word emergency shows up in the lower left-hand corner right away. You tap on that, and then that's where you could dial 911 from a locked screen. And I teach my kids how to do this. We do just like people do fire drills. I do little locked iPhone drills. Okay, kids. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? And then in the lower left-hand corner, there's a bright red medical ID button that you can tap. And then it'll bring up everything that you've got filled out in there. Right. It has your name, your date of birth, your age. It has any medical conditions that you want to put in there, any medical notes So, for example, like I have an allergic reaction to certain medications. You want to put that in there, your blood type, your weight, approximately, your height. And then down at the bottom is your emergency contacts. I almost kind of wish they'd put this up at the top. But anyway, it's there. And those numbers then show up in red. So my husband and my mother-in-law are they're the local people here. So all it takes is a tap. I mean, my kids have both of our phone numbers memorized, but if they didn't, or how your brain kind of doesn't always work in a moment of panic. So this is something, and specifically for that reason, is why you should practice,
sure,
and make sure that you can do this without really having to think about it. And this is where you can get to your emergency contacts and just tap them. And it kind of is like I'll just call it old fashioned, but in older flip phones and things where they weren't necessarily smartphones. I see this a lot with my senior clients. They put the letters ICE in case of emergency. They put ICE in front of their loved ones' names so that they show up when a first responder taps the I key, or something. Now, I don't know for certain. I've asked out, and some people have said yes. Some people haven't said one way or another. But I believe that first responders are trained in how to get at this information, and they know where to go to look for this. So the more information that you can give them, the better. Help yourself, by putting this information in there. So medical ID, fill it out, make sure that everything that's important that is there, fill out your emergency contacts. And then up at the top below your date, if you're an organ donor, it'll have a little red heart and it'll say that you're an organ donor. So Dave, you're looking at this. Tell me or tell our listeners, what does it look like when you set this up? And is there, because my husband noticed this, he said, oh, we're both organ donors. And I noticed that you can set it up in this medical ID section now, and he hadn't noticed that before.
Yeah, because so I'm in it now, and anybody can edit it at any time. I just tapped edit, and then it shows you can edit picture, your name, date of birth, of course, medical conditions, medical notes, allergies, medications, and then you add your blood type. So I would think, like you talked about, that he donates blood platelets. You probably could put that in medical notes, maybe, because there really isn't any spot that looks like you can add. As far as that information goes, but beyond that, I mean, it stores it once you tap done. It's there, and then everything is in there. It looks like you could add additional fields if you wanted to. So if you wanted to add different fields in the contact, it looks like that, but not in the actual. Now I'm looking at this now. There isn't any extra places you can add things other than those set fields I just described. So, but
I think he just wants to track it as like a health stat. Kind of like your red, I don't know, maybe your blood cell count or something like that. For whatever reason, it's important to him to know some kind of hemoglobin figure.
Yeah, there's nothing from the medical ID I can see that's feeding it. So, so I would not say that in the health part of it.
But as far as the medical ID is concerned, I just wanted to bring that up. That was a new not a new tool, but a way to get to it a little bit easier, it seemed, than before. And I just wanted to take some time to kind of bring awareness that this is a really wonderful, wonderful tool that's right there in your phone that first responders, for the most part, are trained to look at. And you should teach your kids, if you have little kids or grandkids, teach them how to be able to access it, and it would really come in handy sometime later. And then moving over to the Apple Watch, there's also a new feature. It's a flashlight tool. So again, we were talking about swiping or flicking up from the bottom, and those tools that you see now. So you see the battery, you see the airplane mode, you see the pinging your iPhone, and then there's a flashlight now. And so when you tap on that, it will bring up a plain white light screen, and it'll get brighter after you have it on for a while. And then you can swipe to the left, and the next screen after that is a flashing, it's a pulsing white bright light. So I imagine this would be good for people who are riding on a bicycle. And then again, going back to like emergencies, then if you swipe again, it'll give you a bright red square. So these are just, another tool that you can now use right from your wrist. And it's just, a flick up and a couple of flicks over, and it's very easy to get to. I was actually tempted to use it the other night. I used it. I was looking for something in my kid's closet, and I wanted to be able to see something. And I didn't want to wake them up, so I, flicked my flashlight on my wrist. I was like, oh, now I can see what that tag says. So, just a nice new little feature there.
All right. So no, that was great information. We appreciate the details, and it's definitely important to do that. couple other tips, and we're going to get close to wrapping up here. We got a couple other topics we want to hit before the end of this show. There is a new way of doing a hard reset of the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. If anybody isn't aware of that, there will be a link in the show notes on how to do that. If we remember always in the past, whenever you would do a hard reset, it's like basically like a reboot. All iPhones up to through iPhone 6, 6S, you would hold the home button and the power button at the same time, and just keep holding it until it shuts off, and then the Apple logo shows up, right?
It's like the death grip.
Yeah. So then here comes along the iPhone 7. They changed that because, of course, the home button on the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus started where it doesn't really have a physical button anymore. It's just more of a touch button. So you would have to hold the volume down and the power button at the same time, and then it would do a hard reset. Well, I found out the hard way when I was trying it, thinking that it was the same thing on the 7 and the 8. It has its own gang
sign now that you have to use.
I was holding the buttons down the same way, but then the SOS popped up, and then I was like, wait, well, I can't do this. And then all of a sudden 911 dialed. I'm like, oh, crap.
So under emergency tools, that's how you get SOS to work.
Exactly. And, of course, I hung up, and I shouldn't have done that. I know better because I helped manage 911 at the office. So they called me right back, and I said, I'm so sorry. I was testing my iPhone, and it
I wonder how many of those calls they're getting.
Yeah. So what they've done is what you have to do is it's kind of interesting. Now what you have to do to get the hard reset to happen is you just tap the volume down button, then you see the volume icon pop up. Then you tap the volume up button, and then at the same time, and then right after you let go, you push and hold the power button. The volume icon disappears, and then all of a sudden it does its reboot. I'm
kind of not looking forward to trying to get my seniors to do that. That's like doing the hokey pokey with your fingers.
Might be better off just having them just do a straight power down. I don't know, the hard reset doesn't have to happen. I mean, it's not that critical that it has to happen. So, that's my other tip. The other thing I'll talk about is I did do a YouTube video of the new changes that happened in iOS 11 with photos. Now, what happened was with photos, Apple has now upgraded the photos so they're saved in what's called the HEIC format, which is the high efficiency format. And I like Apple's thinking because what it's really doing is it's actually storing these photos more efficiently, so it's going to take up less space. Yay! So a lot of folks, that's the biggest challenge, especially when you have a 32 gig or a 64 gig iPhone.
I like to live lean, so this is good news for me. I take a lot of pictures.
And this is going to be a huge, huge change for that. But what happened was they were getting some instances where people would hook up their phone to their Mac or their PC, and then the file would save as a HEIC format. And then, of course, there wouldn't be anything to be able to open it. There really isn't a problem with it on the Mac. It's probably more on the PC than anything else because there was no way to opening it. But on what happens is it's supposed to automatically convert. I did a video, so I won't go too much into detail. So you could just go ahead in the show notes and check that out. But the files should automatically convert. This was the case because I was doing it because I support OneDrive for Business, where people didn't have the most up to date version of OneDrive. Because now OneDrive, what a concept! Microsoft actually is working with Apple. That the OneDrive app automatically converts the photos as soon as you copy them over from your camera roll into JPEGs like they're supposed to. But my video is also going to show if you want to disable it or if you want to turn it on or off, and just be aware of it. So check that out. It's a great link to the video. And you wanted to talk a little bit about listening to podcasts. And, of course, that's what we do all the time, right?
Right. Well, it goes along in the same vein of saving space. I get this question a lot, unfortunately. I get the phone, the panic email or the panic phone call that says, I went over my data plan. How did this happen? And it'd be like, oh, well, did you subscribe to any podcasts lately? Did you start listening to Serial or,
or In Touch for iOS for that matter?
Or In Touch with iOS, so, and I did this to my dad by accident when I was trying to teach him how to do it. And one of my clients. So Apple provides an easy way to get started listening to podcasts with their own podcast app, which is, pretty easy to use. It's a good starter app. And as we've discussed in previous episodes, and we will keep discussing because we're always looking for, something to make this process better. It's not without its own faults.
Right.
So there's some settings that you should be aware of because they can really end up making you chew through a limited data plan. If you have an unlimited data plan or just a big data plan, this isn't so much of a problem. But if you are not a heavy phone user and you're just starting out with podcasts, it's just something we really want you to be aware of. So if you have, especially if you have a smaller hard drive. So the two problems are a limited data plan and a small hard drive. Podcasts can make them fill up really quickly, both of them, your data plan and the hard drive. So I put a link to it in the show notes. And Dave, I made my first little how-to videos on my new iOS 11. Did you like those?
Yeah. Did you know you can turn the microphone on?
Yes, but I just wanted to do, there's construction going on.
Make sure you do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I might try that. This was my first one, so you all get to benefit from this. So I'm going to put this in the show notes. I actually made a video, and I'll have little text instructions on what to do. But I have some tips for you for things that you should switch off, and there's a lot to consider, so I won't go through it in too much detail here, but something you should read and something you should watch on how to change the settings in the podcasts app settings to make sure that you don't go over your data plan and make sure that you don't fill up your phone and still be able to enjoy listening to us here on this podcast.
Absolutely.
This would be a good place to wrap it up, talking about listening to podcasts and how to get us into your ears. Yeah, so why don't we put a bow on this?
All right. Thanks for listening. We hope you get more in touch with iOS after hearing this episode. Subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcatcher and show your friends how to look for us in iTunes. We look forward to bringing you more useful information in future episodes. I am David Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65.
And I'm Melissa Davis, and you can find me online all over at the Mac Mommy.
Until next time, thanks for listening.